Well, hello, Web Summit. It's fantastic to see so many of you here today. And I'm sure it's going to be a fascinating session. Jose, I can't tell you what a fan I am. It's wonderful to be here with you today. Launched in 2008, amid all that economic uncertainty, now Farfetch has more than 1 million customers in 190 countries around the world. And recently, of course, you were valued at $1.5 billion. So all in all, a huge, huge success story. I wonder if you can start by taking us back to the beginning, back to those early days. What was your light bulb moment, so to speak?
Yes, well, likewise, really happy to be here. Farfetch is very, very proudly a Portuguese-British company, because I normally say the mother was Portuguese and the father was British, or the other way around, doesn't matter. But we started from day one in Portugal and London. And,
of course.
Yeah, so it was back in 2007 when I had the idea. We launched in 2008.
Yeah.
Lehman Brothers went bankrupt 2 weeks later.
Great.
And we weren't able to raise any funding for over 3 years. So the first Series A of the business was in 2010.
So it was self-funded at first?
Yes, essentially, yeah.
And how did that shape how you evolved? Did it make you more nimble?
Absolutely. I think, it was good to launch in a recession, in the sense that companies were open to opportunities. So we work with high-end luxury fashion brands which are very protective of their environment.
Of course.
But at that time, it was clear for them they had to do something. So that opened up an opportunity for me. At the same time, there was no chance I would get any funding. So, so the big advantage is that I didn't even waste time trying to find investors, because I knew there weren't any. And with that comes a sense of discipline, that every dollar counts, and that was very helpful, and that DNA still stays today in the company.
So the concept is incredibly innovative. It's not just a sort of straightforward e-commerce platform. It's the idea of having a platform that offers a bespoke solution for different brands and boutiques. Can you explain that to us?
Sure. So Farfetch is a community of the best creators of fashion, the best curators of fashion, and it's a global community where they can connect and sell to fashion lovers worldwide. So the inspiration came from my previous businesses in fashion. So I used to be a computer programmer and then a shoe designer, which is,
quite
normally
a shift. Yeah.
it's quite a shift. But I love this industry, and Farfetch was really created for the love of fashion, and with a strong sense that the best boutiques and the best designers in the world needed a platform. And that platform shouldn't be value-driven like the Amazons or the Alibabas of this world, which are very convenience and price-driven.
Yeah.
It should be driven by the love of fashion, by creativity, by curation, and that's really the DNA of the business. And essentially, from a consumer point of view, it allows you to do a fantastic journey around the world and see the best boutiques in Tokyo or LA or Copenhagen, and shop them conveniently, and we'll take care of the rest.
So something that I'm very keen to talk to you about is bricks and mortar, because although you started as an e-commerce platform, you have spoken a lot about bricks and mortar and the idea of augmented retail. And in the spring, you unveiled your Store of the Future concept. I wonder if you can explain that to us today.
Yes, I think, the first observation is that fashion is not downloadable.
Yeah.
Unlike music, which you can completely digitize, or film, or even media, in those industries, the physical experience has pretty much vanished. There are no, CD or blockbuster stores anymore.
No.
But in fashion and in other industries where the experience is so important, online will only be part of the equation. To put this in numbers, online sales are only 10% of the market. So 90% of the market, it's still the brick and mortar store.
It's the overwhelming majority there.
The overwhelming majority, and if you look at the numbers, some forecasts say it will be 25-75, it will be maybe 40-60, but the physical experience will continue to be inimitable. And there is magic when you go to a boutique, and in the interior decoration, the scent, the chat that you have with a knowledgeable person that knows the product, the fact that you can try the clothes on, and the feeling, the emotion you get when you leave that environment, you cannot replicate it online. However, these boutiques and the brands, they're still in the 80s.
Right.
The way you shop in a fashion store is the way you shopped 30 years ago. There's a till, there's a queue, there's maybe a wireless credit card machine. That's the biggest innovation was wireless payments, which was not even coming from the fashion industry.
Yeah.
And that has to change. And we are, at Farfetch, we're investing very heavily on research and development and innovation that will reinvent the luxury experience of the future. And that's online and offline. There will be no channels in the future.
So you've actually put this into practice in London. You bought Brown's boutique. And for those who don't know, Brown's is a much-loved British fashion boutique, originally in Mayfair, which has just opened a second branch in London's East End, and it runs on your Store of the Future operating system. How's that going? Can you tell us about some of the features? What can people expect if they visit?
Yes, it's been great. It's above expectations. It's very, very new. We opened 3 weeks ago. And this, as everything in technology, is an iteration. I would call this the beta version of the Store of the Future. But they're very simple user scenarios. Obviously, we have digital mirrors. We have data collection at product and user level. So if you browse the store, it will create automatically a wish list.
So is that if you go online and then you go into the store, it recognizes you?
Yes.
And you can log in?
Yeah, absolutely. So you can check in as you arrive to the store. Shop assistant will know your history, both online and offline. You can pre-book an appointment. There's a number of experiences that technology is enabling. I always use the example, if you're a Chinese lady that spends $500,000 on, let's say, Prada in Shanghai, when you go to Paris, if you happen to be wearing the wrong pair of trainers, they won't even look at you, and they will probably ask for your passport. And that's not nice. That's not a luxurious experience. So brands really need to have a unified view of their customers. So it all starts with knowing your customer, and then how do we reinvent the shopping experience from zero and redesign it, and with the customer at the center of it.
So how do you see that changing the customer service side of things? Shop assistants now, how will their role change when the customer's fully known already?
I think it will change dramatically, because if you look at what a shop assistant does these days, so you come into a store, they don't know you, they're maybe going to suggest something that you already bought. They don't even know what kind of experience you want. Maybe you don't want to talk to anyone. So there is in our Store of the Future vision a do not disturb button.
Fantastic.
Do not disturb, no one talks to you, but only technology actually can enable that. But so they don't know what kind of experience you're looking for in that particular day. They don't know your tastes, they don't know your previous purchases. And they spend most of their time in very unproductive tasks, like checking if they have your shoe size in stock. So they go back to the stock room, 15 minutes, they come back and say, oh, I'm really sorry, madam. So do you have it in any of your shops? Then they'll go into a legacy system and they'll try to look up or then call the branches. I mean, this is, this is not the experience that customers expect these days. So solving these seemingly simple pain points will make a huge, huge difference. And then obviously you can layer, personalization, smart recommendations, personal shopping and experiences, concierge experiences. You can layer all of that on top of a strong data foundation.
And your idea is that other stores will be able to customize this in the way people develop apps for iOS. They'll be able to customize your store of the future model.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So our idea of the store of the future is not one store for all brands, because each brand will have its own experience and it needs to be bespoke. And I also don't think one company will come up with all the solutions. There are around $2.3 billion a year invested in retail tech, in companies that range from RFID to coupons to loyalty to data analytics, in-store metrics, you name it. So there's a huge ecosystem of startups. And these startups have really, really cool ideas. The problem is that no retailer can integrate all these solutions in one common framework that then connects all these solutions to each other and makes the data flow between them. And that's why it hasn't worked so far. So our vision is really to create that platform and then invite all the retail tech ecosystem to come and build on that platform. We have 2,000 points of sale on our network. They're our partners. We represent over 30% of their sales at the moment, so we are a meaningful partner to all of these retail businesses. And we actually have 2 million customers.
So right, there we are.
It keeps going up. Oh, that's good. And this is an amazing way for startups and for us to test and learn using some of the retailers already on our network and the customers, see what works, and really develop it as a community and as an ecosystem.
So we mentioned that you were trialing it in London at the moment, which brings me to the B word, Brexit. How do you see that impacting on your business, and what are you doing to prepare for it?
So I think in terms of the trading and the financial part of the business, we're not worried at all because the UK is 5% of our sales. We're a very global business. Our largest market is the US, the second largest is China. Asia Pacific is where most of the growth is going to come from in the next few years. So we're not too worried about that. What really concerns us is access to talent. I'm not British, and in our board of directors there is one English guy, one Scottish guy, and the rest are New Zealanders, Argentinians, Portuguese, Americans. So it's a very global community. We have 25 different nationalities in our London office. So if we jeopardize that, it's going to be a major loss for not just for Farfetch, but obviously for the whole tech community. And the Portuguese government just announced today a visa program to expedite non-EU permits and visas. Now imagine if in the UK, not only you have the non-EU issue, suddenly you have an EU issue as well. So even if you want to hire a Spanish guy or an Italian guy, I mean, it just will become really messy. But hopefully, you know, the UK has a great track record in terms of international treaties and international policy that dates back centuries, and they've always been very, very good at trading and world commerce, and that they will continue on that tradition and will land in a good point.
So you're an optimist?
Absolutely, yes.
Well, look, on that note, I think our time's running out, so I have to ask you one final question. Obviously, we've got lots of entrepreneurs here today, so I wonder if, casting your mind back to the beginning, what is the most important thing you've learned along the way? And in turn, if you could give one piece of advice to everyone here, what would it be?
Well, I think that, you know, it's very difficult to give advice because in tech, the landscape keeps changing constantly. So what I learned is completely irrelevant for the next. What I learned in the past 9 years is irrelevant for the next 9, honestly. I actually think it could be our enemy because, you know, new things that you've tried and failed, maybe they will succeed now. So,
oh, really?
So I'm not, but one thing that I always say is that you should only start a company if you don't forgive yourself if you don't do it. So if you have such a strong passion that you say to yourself, you know what, if I don't do this, I will never forgive myself. That's the moment, that's the acid test. Because if you don't have that level of passion, the resilience needed to start a company from zero and go through you know, all the stumbling blocks is huge. And you'll probably, if you don't have that thrive, you will throw the towel along the way. And you know what? And if you have that will, even if you fail, you won, because you wouldn't have forgiven yourself if you didn't try. So it's a win-win. So you always win. You always succeed.
Fantastic advice. Lots of passion here today. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you.
Thank you.